Alright, welcome to the Crossbones showcase. Kingpin has actually enlisted us to take out some of his most formidable opponents, and we're starting off with Spider-Ham here. So while we take out this Spider-Ham, let's talk about Crossbones a little bit. Now this rank up was for Alliance War Attack. He is currently a tactic attacker, and he is doing a very good job at just crushing most science defenders on the Alliance War map. He is mainly good for hero characters as shown here in this Spider-Ham fight, and I think overall he is just a powerhouse when it comes to, doing damage and just shutting off abilities. So for example, right here, this Spider-Ham fight, we are shutting off his evade very well, and additionally, Crossbones has like this little trick, and it's kind of hard to explain, but I'll try to show an example right here. So Spider-Ham's about to throw the SP1 in a second, I hope anyway. So he throws it right here, right? And usually this would taunt us. However, since Crossbones hits him right after the special attack ends, and it registers the taunt as a defensive ability even though it isn't, and yeah, it just fails because Crossbones has a ton of Furies on him. So this fight is going well. Here you can just drop the heavy attack, and for Crossbones, if the opponent has a special attack that is friendly to his heavy countering, then the fight's gonna go very well. And I think Crossbones, he really does want that, but not only that, if you practice a ton with this character, then nearly every champion special attacks can be heavy punished, and it'll just make life a whole lot easier for Crossbones. And this fight is a wrap because this damage output is just so insane. Now we have a callback to the last saga, which is X-Magica, and we have some unfinished business there, especially for Kingpin. So we have this Havoc fight, and Crossbones, despite being a skill character, is honestly one of the better Havoc counters, since Havoc is a hero character, and not only that, Crossbones doesn't crit. And this is important because Crossbones not critting means that Havoc doesn't gain plasma charges, which means Crossbones is just a fantastic Havoc counter overall. And yeah, once we get ramped up, this fight is going to go by very quickly. So here we can drop another SP1, and we're looking pretty good in this fight already. Now, while this fight is going on, I do want to say that this is a synergized Crossbones. He is working with Mcoc, and Mcoc provides a massive benefit for Crossbones. And what that synergy does is it gives Crossbones 50% increased duration on his Furies, and this is huge for Crossbones because you can argue that without this synergy, he is a bit stressful to play, especially if you aren't a Crossbones master, and most players are not Crossbones masters. So it's like, yeah, this synergy does help a ton, and like in Alliance War especially, where there are 3 slots, you're going to want to use Crossbones and Mcoc there pretty much all the time. And this matchup is just concluded because the damage output yet again is just insane, almost 30,000 mediums, and this fight is a wrap. However, we're not done just yet with the X-Magica characters because Nightcrawler has arrived here too. And this one's a bit of a trap. So this one has the best defense. And while I thought Crossbones would be safe once he gets a lot of Furies going, that's not actually the case. So yeah, like we had 8 Furies going, and that still wasn't enough to counter Nightcrawler. And 11 wasn't either. So this was a trap actually, and Kingpin has to pay for that for sure. But it's fine now because he is now in swashbuckling mode, and this is now just a regular fight for Crossbones, and it's a good showcase of just his DPS, and look how crazy this damage output is. Yeah, this fight is going to go by really quickly now because we have a lot of Furies ramped up. We have over 20 Furies now. So we go for the Relic here, then we go for the SP2, and the damage output on the SP2 is a bit crazy, and that fight is just over. As a surprise to no one, Kingpin wants everyone out of his way, especially the people that he thinks are competition to him. So yeah, we got to get rid of Mcoc right here, and thankfully Crossbones, despite Mcoc not being a hero, can still take Mcoc really well. And yeah, so this Mcoc fight isn't the biggest deal. However, this is a good example of the spacing for the heavy attack being a bit rough for Crossbones. So I do have to play it a bit differently here. I will let some Furies fall off, but you know, for example, right there, the heavy spacing, it's a bit odd for this Mcoc fight. And, you know, a Crossbones master can do this fight pretty easily because they can get the heavy spacing pretty easily, I assume. But for me, a Crossbones noob, it's a bit difficult to get the heavy spacing for that heavy attack because he just lunges you, or like he lunges himself forward, and it's like hard to just try to stay close to that, if that makes sense. But at this point, the fight is getting close to being finished since we have the pauses going. We have over 10 Furies, so we have like about 15 at this point. And yeah, this is just a wrap because this damage output is just a bit silly. So we drop the relic into the heavy attack and that just does it. And there's some competition eliminated. Now, if you don't know, Crossbones was an ex-agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. and this one kind of means a lot to him, so we gotta focus up here. And yeah, this Nick Fury fight is not easy at all, since this has defective defense, which means we can get a lot of disorients on us. However, Crossbones does have a trick up its sleeve, and what Crossbones can do is purify those disorients with his awakened ability. Now, there is a cooldown, like it's a kind of a hidden cooldown for his awakened ability, so it is hard to purify all of them, especially on the SP1 from Nick Fury. However, he can help neutralize most of them at least. So yeah, this should be not the toughest matchup for Crossbones, but still one that can go south very, very quickly. But everything else about this fight, Crossbones just really loves. The fact that Nick Fury gains his tactic charges defensively, which means that we can just fail them and then he just can't really gain any other abilities. We love that part, right? But yeah, there's also this burnout node, which means he is now power locked. And this means we can just do a ton of damage right here, spam the heavy attack, go for the SP3 in a second, and this SP3 does a lot of damage. So it is looking really good for us. We're about to enter the second life right here, just like one more combo maybe, and that was over 100,000 damage, by the way, so that is just wild stuff. And at this point, yeah, Crossbones, he is ramped up big time. So we go for the activation of Overrun in a second here, and now Nick Fury drops CSP2, and this is going to be a very fast second life takedown. So we drop the relic into the heavy attack in just a second. Here he drops CSP2, and get ready for this SP2 right here. It is quite insane. Do I even drop it? It's not necessary, I guess, but yeah, there we go. And that is a memory of the past that has a bit more closure now. Now we have some one-off fights here, and some of these are just insane. So we're going to start off with Gauntlet Korg. We are starting with the hardest fight in this video in my opinion, because yeah, this guy is rough. He has Mix Master, he has, you know, usual Korg things like his Thorns. He also has Gauss Warp, which means that he can just gain a ton of block penetration. So this fight is not easy. However, Crossbones is one of the perfect counters for this fight. And yeah, it does take a bit to, like, you know, master it, of course, since there is like the Purify for it as well. So yeah, it's just a very complex matchup. Here I dropped the SP1 just to, you know, get more Furies going, and now it's time to go in and do as much damage as we can. And spoiler alert, it is a lot of damage. So yeah, here we get Overrun going, we drop the SP2, and look at that, man, over like 100,000 in total DPS right there, plus the incinerates, and this one is a wrap already. So this was, are you ready for this fight time once we get him down finally, which is right there? This was a sub 1 minute Gauntlet Korg takedown. I don't know any other champ that can do that. Like, genuinely being honest, I don't know who else can do that in under a minute. Like, that is so impressive, and that's kind of what sold me on this character. The fact that he can do some of the hardest fights in just such little time, because he's a ramp up champion, but that ramp up, it just happens so fast. And once he's ramped up, it's just over for anyone. So yeah, he's honestly such a beast, and he takes some of the best defenders in the game like ease. For example, Thing right here. Thing has been kind of on the comeback, especially in top tier battlegrounds, but who's his best counter? It's Crossbones, because he just does him so quickly. And yeah, this one is a bit tougher since it does have Oscillate, so it is a bit harder because you want to have like an aggressive opponent for Crossbones, but this has Oscillate, so it's like sometimes he just is really passive. But yeah, now we have our damage going. We drop the heavy attack in a second here, and this one's a wrap. It's just already over. So yeah, that's just usual Crossbones things. We activate Overrun, and yeah, this should do it in one more SP2 if he wants to even play ball, which he does finally. And there we go. That is going the thing down in 1 minute. So just more insanity. Now we have this Rocket Raccoon fight. This is on, I believe, Gimme Shelter, and also I think it's just Gimme Shelter actually. So yeah, not the biggest deal, and it's Rocket Raccoon, so he's gonna go down very fast. And like for a ramp up champion, the amount of damage he does in such little time is kind of unreal. So honestly, is he a ramp up character? Like, he is, because in like the longer fights he is one of the best DPSs in the game, but in the shorter fights he is still absolutely broken. And this was like a 300,000 health fight in about 28 seconds, I think. So yeah, that's just unreal, right? It's crazy how a champion can be not just a ramp up one, but also a burst damage dealer as well. Not many champions do that in this game. I don't think, like, I would say less than 10 champions do that in this game. But yeah, now we have the sentry fight. This is just a regular skill path, which he does very well, obviously. So he can do like your normal skill things, like purify matchups, evade matchups, auto block matchups. Just imagine, like, okay, this might get some heat, but just imagine like a Falcon but with more damage, and I guess he's a bit more stressful to play, but the payoff is well worth it in my opinion. But yeah, here I drop the SP2 and he just gets one shot in about 30 seconds. So yeah, we were just speedrunning these fights, I guess. Now we have this Sunspot fight, and this one showcases like the trick that Crossbones can do, where when the opponent has like an effect that triggers after their special attack, if you play really aggressively and go in right after it, then it actually fails the ability, even though it really shouldn't. But we'll just, we'll just let it exist, because why not? Like, it makes Crossbones a lot better for some fights, but it really isn't the biggest deal, I feel like. So I think it should be kept because it's just like already here, so may as well. So yeah, here I drop the SP1 again. And yeah, this fight is just going so well for Crossbones. We get the pause there yet again. We activate Overrun, he drops the SP2, we go back in, and this one is essentially over now. So yeah, very fun fight. And by the way, if you didn't know, that Sunspot is supposed to activate an armor up after every special attack. But as you can see, there were no armor ups activated, so yeah, he kind of just like trolled that fight. But now we have the Safeguard Stark Spidey, and yeah, this one is a joke for Crossbones, because Crossbones, once he gets his Furies going, he just bypasses Safeguard completely. So yeah, this becomes a nothing fight, and he also bypasses Spider-Man's evade, so it's a 2-for-1 special for him. And yeah, this damage output is just insane already. Like, you can't call him a ramp up champion. You just can't call him one, since the damage output is so fast, so quick. So like, it's just like, what do you call this character? I guess like just overpowered, I guess. Maybe that's the word to call him, but he is something special for sure. And yeah, that's gonna do it for this little showcase. Crossbones, he is a beast. He is a really strong character. He has use in pretty much any game mode, like Battlegrounds, Alliance War, you name it. And once I get some more content in those game modes, I will definitely show y'all what it looks like. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on Crossbones, and this is just the start of the Cold World series. We got Red Skull, and we also got the big man himself, Kingpin, coming up next. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this series as well, and yeah, that's about it from me.